celebrating 16 years of possibility. Pilot Flying J and Halloran Hilton Hill present Anything is Possible. Today's guest, Cylk and Nikki Cozart, Part 1.
Welcome to Anything is Possible. Meet Cylk and Nikki. Wow, it's great to have you here. First of all, you know I love you as a friend and brother, and you've been on this set before, and you told an incredible story about your life and your possibility. Let's rewind for just a minute. You were raised in this community. Did you imagine the life that you have?
I imagined it, but I didn't realistically feel it until I got out in the real world and went to Hollywood, as you might say. So that's when it hit me. Then I can do this. I can do this.
So you went to Hollywood, you have a great career as an actor, but you came back here. Why come back here?
Mom. I wanted to make sure Mom was good.
Tell me about your mother.
My mom was very young. She was a teenager when I was born, so she had a pretty hard time with me, you know, before I was born, let's say. So, and now I think it's important that I make sure she's okay and whatever she needs. Instead of being 3,000 miles away and she might need me, I'd rather be here, living in Knoxville and going to LA or New York or Chicago, you know, instead of living in that cesspool. Did I say that?
So if that is a cesspool and if it's negative, then being around your mother and family is net positive.
Absolutely.
So tell me about your mother and how she is and who she is. Give us a window into her personality.
Well, my mother, Betty, is probably the strongest matriarchic figure that I've ever met. She was a child that had a child in a very volatile environment in Tennessee. And my dad was a good man, but he wasn't a father as we know what fathers typically do. But she was by herself. So that's why I say any woman, any person that could do that with a child in tow is pretty phenomenal. And so that takes a toll and on a person, and being, you know, Native American and African American in the 60s was very difficult in the South.
Did that register with you initially when you were a young man? Did you get it? Or at this stage in your life where you're at a point where you're getting it? And by the way, I know you're watching and you're wondering, who's this? That's coming, hang on. Did it register with you?
It didn't register, obviously, from a child's point of view, but it registered from a spiritual point of view where, you know, everything is basically a picture we take. And those pictures stay in our brains, in our minds. And as we get older, those pictures come more clear, you know, and as I got older, I realized how hard and how difficult she must have had things. And I remember a lot of things.
You know, sometimes we don't know what's going on, but our bodies take in and memorize the energy of it, whether it's positive or negative. You feel it.
Yes.
And later on in life, you make sense of it. This is Cylk. This is Nikki. You'll meet her in just a moment. You're watching Anything is Possible.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel. Coming up.
You know, I'd come across some information that that the father that you know I was growing up around when I was a child was not my father.
This is Anything is Possible. I'm Halloran Hilton Hill. We love telling stories of possibility. The word possible means able to be. So we've watched a lot of people over the years tell us the story of how they took nothing and made something out of it. Cylk Cozart is an actor, and he had that same experience. He's been in multiple films. He's a writer, director, producer, working on some exciting projects now, and he also produced this.
Very nice, Helen.
See the way we did that? So we were talking about your mother, and you know, I really believe this about our parents and the people that we're around. For better or worse, we hear what they say, but we absorb who they are, right? So there's an internal factor, what they transfer to us through DNA, right? That's there. But then when you live with them and you're around them, what you get from the outside, you absorb. And I think of, I love to read. I saw my father reading all the time, but he never stopped and said, hey, let me give you a course in reading, or let me tell you why this is important. It became important for two reasons. I absorbed it by watching him, but I saw the delight that learning brought him, and that delight had an energy, and I wanted to be in that energy. And so I carried that, but he never taught me that. So when you start to talk about how tough it was for your mother, what she endured, and how she smiled and pressed forward, I bet you absorbed a lot of that durability you needed to deal with Hollywood from her. She didn't teach it, she modeled it, and you absorbed it. Would that sound true?
That is very true. In fact, that energy gave me the strength and ability to pursue whatever it is I was going through in Hollywood. It didn't matter what came up because I had witnessed things that I watched her go through and I went through. So Hollywood's Smollywood,
So the way I wanted to make this linkage though is you've been through a lot.
Yes, sir.
Right? There's probably a native ability to press through that was delivered to you through her, through him, right? Welcome, this is Nikki, this is Cylk's daughter, and the story here is you didn't know you had a daughter.
Not until a few months ago, about 9 months ago, maybe 10, right around Father's Day, which was apropos.
Well, welcome to Anything is Possible, and think of this possibility. What happened?
Well, that's how much time do we have?
2 minutes.
Well, I'd come across some information that that the father that I was growing up around when I was a child was not my father. And I took a DNA test or genetics test, and it revealed I was a third African American. I'm like, I mean, I have rhythm. I knew that. And I was like, but what? I'm athletic. Where does this? So I just did some more research, and the name Cylk Cozart came up, and I went on Google. First picture came up. I was like, I look like somebody now. That's the first time I saw.
When you say something like, I look like somebody now, what's the significance of that?
Connection, just restoration, completion, just feeling whole again. I mean, I had never looked like anybody in my family, and I don't think that, I know children look different, and sometimes you get different, genetics plays, so many different roles, and so I didn't really think much about it because I had that Native American side in my family that I knew of. But when I saw his face, I literally, his eyes, it just meant so much to me because I finally was like, that's my dad. I didn't even have to ask him. I knew,
What did it mean to you to know who he was specifically?
Because it told me who I was. It just helped me realize that, I'd always been struggling with that internally my whole life. Couldn't put my finger on it, and when I saw him and saw what he looked like, and then he was an athlete, recruited by the NBA, and then an actor, I'm like, these three things, that is all me. I finally looked like somebody. I was an athlete, the athlete of my family, and I had been pursuing acting for a number of years.
Didn't DNA something?
Without even realizing
This is what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So you're an actor as well. When did the acting bug bite and infect you?
Well, when I was just a child, I loved to put on plays for my neighbors, or at school I would always be the person that would be like, let's do this, let's do that. And I would write stuff, and I would say, let's do this and you do that. And I was directing people. I was already being a boss. I was like, but you do this. But I always loved to act. And I think when it started really happening on an official level is when I I'd gotten a job in pharmaceuticals, and then I'd always had that feeling coming back to me, and I finally got with an agency and just started dabbling in it. And then when my husband and I, when we got married, we moved to DC, and that was a larger market than Knoxville. So I was going to New York and getting, you know, auditions there, and that's when it really started to snowball with network TV and independent film and commercials.
Great spirit, but I can see your spirit in her. There's it's what I would call a titanium optimism.
Wow.
Right?
I like that.
You're both upbeat, but I can tell you're rugged, that you're tough, right? And there's a difference there. So talk to us about making contact with him, because it's one thing to you know, have your eyes opened or screw up your life with 23andMe. Right? No shade, but a lot of people have been finding out stuff that
they didn't want
to know.
They got death threats over there.
DNA that you did not ask for. Right? But it's one thing to see a picture and then go, wow, I see me. Mm-hmm. I am not just some detached soul that is not rooted in something. I have roots. Mm-hmm. Roots imply that I have something to grow from, right? Being detached means you take a branch off the vine. There's no life force. Right. So seeing a picture and then going, I got to reach out.
Yeah, by the grace of God, literally, his number, because he had Cozart's Entertainment, and I found his number online, which I thought there's no chance of me finding this person's number. I mean, he's been in movies that have grossed over $1 billion at the box office, and I'm thinking, his number, I'm not gonna get his phone number. And then there it is. I'm like, it's gotta be a fake old number or something. So I went ahead and I just picked up the phone and dialed it, and after the first ring, I was like, nope, not gonna do it. But then inside me, I was like, I have to know. I've always been that person that has to know, whether good or bad, negative or positive, I have to know. So I picked the phone back up again, and it was his voice. You've reached, you know, Cozart's Entertainment. Please leave a message. I still remember it. And I just left that voicemail. That very ambivalent, not knowing what he was going to say.
Recreate the voicemail.
Oh. Well, I don't think I even said anything. I didn't really put it together until the very end, because I was just talking at the very beginning. Because it's like, this is one of the biggest things I think it's ever happened to me. It's a life-changing event. So I said, hi, Cylk. You know, I said, my name is Nikki Estridge, and I came across some information. You probably know it better than I do.
No, you're doing a good job.
Nikki Estridge. I said, I came across some information that the person who I thought was my father was not my father.
And I'm thinking, I'm hearing this message
like,
going, oh, that's sad, and maybe I know her father. I'm thinking as I'm listening.
Why is she telling me this, you know? And I'm like, I hope, you know, this is what happened, and, you know, I was born here. What were you doing in this year? Because, you know, and so I just put it all out there. And at the very end, I said, I told him I was married. I said I had 2 beautiful boys, and you have grandsons, you know, and I said, you be proud of me as your daughter. Because I wanted him to know that, and I said, I don't want anything from you, I just want a conversation. Because I was afraid, oh my gosh, this person is a Hollywood superstar, could have possibly gotten this along the way with a woman or somebody, I want this, I want that. And so at the end of the day, it was about me, not about anything else other than finding my roots. So when I left that voicemail at the very end of it, I told him what I did, and that, hey, I'm an actor, and I can't believe it, you know, I was an athlete, and I told him, I just wanted to tell him everything about me because it was my dad. So at the end, I was like, you'd be proud of me.
And I didn't hear the whole message.
You just heard that.
I just heard the first part of the message, because I was literally at the Tennessee Theater at the Gladys Knight concert. It had just started.
Let's stop right there, and we'll pick it up. So now you see where the story is going. What a story of possibility. Cylk, Nikki, and the rest of their story when we come back. You're watching Anything is Possible.
Coming up.
When he hugged me, this sounds like, I know this sounds so cliche to say this, but it is absolutely real. It felt like, when he hugged me, it felt warm and familiar and comforting and it felt like my dad.
My first encounter with Cylk Cozart in an athletic setting was over a ping pong table. Cylk walks up, he's got a bum leg, and he's shuffling along because he's an older gentleman. and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. Y'all pray for me now. And he dusted me off. And that's when I knew this guy is an actor's actor. This is Cylk Cozart and his daughter, Nikki.
I didn't dust you.
Yeah, you did.
No,
you dusted me off.
I barely won.
I felt like I was watching a movie that you've been in,
Yes.
right?
It was fun, though, wasn't it?
For you. All right, here we go. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your incredible story. We're picking up from Nikki. You reached out. You just wanted a conversation because there's a missing piece in your puzzle. There's a silk-shaped void in your heart. You don't know it. You don't know what it is, but you want to. What's happening right now?
I'm just reliving what you're saying. I'm just feeling it.
Because I saw you get really emotional just then.
Yeah. But
And you swallowed it back down.
Can't act now.
What just happened?
it was just feeling that, having that missing piece, like you said, and just seeing him, and I'm just reliving what you're saying because I finally felt like I knew who I was, and that voicemail felt like it was yesterday. And when we met, the first time we met, when he hugged me, this sounds like, I know this sounds so cliche to say this, but it is absolutely real. It felt like, when he hugged me, it felt warm and familiar and comforting, and it felt like my dad.
And you'd never hugged her before.
Never.
We never even saw each other.
Never knew about her or anything.
You hear a piece of the message at the Gladys Knight concert.
Yes. I'm waiting on my friend Chris Blue to
Right.
meet me there. I wanted to introduce him to Gladys, and I told him to meet me there. So as I was waiting on Chris to show up, I'm in the lobby.
And
listening.
so you hear this message, and you go, 9 times out of 10, a message like this, delete.
Yeah, oh, I wouldn't have listened to 5 seconds of that. I would have been, I don't, weirdo, crazy, no way, you know. But again, at the concert, I didn't hear the end of it. I could only hear it up to the point where she says, you know, I went to the University of Tennessee, scholarship, you know, magna cum laude. I was like, you know, I don't even know anybody that's magna cum laude.
Right.
I was like, yeah. So I was like, so I thought, oh, you know, she's, you know, looking for information about her father. I'll check it later. Chris comes, I introduce him to Gladys. We're watching the show. We're jamming to Midnight Train to Georgia, right? All of a sudden, I just got an inkling. I said, well, maybe let me check Facebook. In the middle of Gladys' song, she's right here, and Chris is right here. And I'm looking at my cell going to Facebook, Nikki Estridge. And then her picture shows up. I'm like, it looks familiar. I'd never seen her before in my life. But the picture looked familiar. And Chris is looking at me like, dude, Gladys is up there singing, what you doing? You know, I'm like, don't worry about it. And so I just said, okay, and I looked to her friends. And I said, maybe I know some of her friends. And I saw one person there, and I said, oh, this guy's a prankster. He put her up to this to say something. Okay. Anyway, didn't think any more about it. Concert goes on, it's great. I'm on my way back home, and I thought, oh yeah, that girl that left the message. Let me get that out and listen to it so I can hear the whole message. When she got to the part of saying, I believe you would be proud of me as your daughter, I thought, oh, wait a minute. Oh, hold on, what did she say? Rewind that. Rewind that. Proud of me as your daughter. As your daughter? I was like, what is that? What is she talking about? You know, and then I got nervous. I was like, what is going on? And I listened to it maybe 20 times by the time I got to my house. And then I just shut the door and listened to it all again, maybe another 20 times. And I picked up the phone and called her. And I said, Nikki, this is Cylk. Maybe not that calm. But I said, Nikki, this is Cylk. And she says,
How did you say it?
I said something like that, I think.
You go, yeah, I remember you go, Nikki? And I go, yeah. He goes, this is Cylk. I like, yeah.
And I think I said something like, honey,
Yeah.
I had no idea about you or anything.
Which
like
immediately gave me relief, because at this time I was just doing my initial research and I had not shared this with anyone other than my husband.
And I'm thinking all this time she's thinking that I knew about her and just didn't want to see her or something.
Which I
Like
was
a lot of
34 and felt like I was like 6 or 7 years old. I felt like I reverted to that little girl that needed her daddy, but possibly could have felt rejected. And I prepared my heart either way, because I didn't know if he knew about me and he just didn't want to deal with me, or, I didn't know. So I was preparing my heart for it, praying that it wouldn't be the case. But
Well, during the message, she says, I know you think this is like some kind of Maury Povich, Dr. Phil thing. And I started laughing. She was laughing, and I was like kind of cracking up. She says, I don't need diapers. I don't need all that. I was like, oh, good, thank God. No, but I thought, wow, it just, her voice, her energy from her voice just felt so good and familiar. And we arranged to meet.
Part 2 of this show, we'll pick up where we left off, because I want to talk about bracing for impact.
Ooh.
Bracing for impact. This is Anything is Possible. This is Cylk. This is Nikki. Part 2 next time.